Hi, welcome back to Future Fast. And once again, we have Chandra with us. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I urge you to look up the first part of our podcast with Chandrasekhar-Arcot. And he's the co-founder and CTO for Axiom Consulting. And for the rest of the information about it, you should catch up with the first part, and we'll jump right back in. And of course, if you have not subscribed, this is the time to click on the subscription button. With that, Chandra, thank you so much for making time to come back and be with us on this. So, can
Thank
you
you.
do a
Thank you.
so, Chandra? Can you do a quick introduction to what is Axiom Consulting doing today? Because I know it's got started almost 20 years ago now. That's since you said
Yeah, 2001, that makes it 22, I think.
22, right? So, what is Axiom doing today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what kind of sectors are you catering to?
Okay. And definitely. Uh, Axiom Consulting is a product innovation, design, and engineering firm. So we help our customers in their product journey by all this, several offerings that we help them drive efficiencies in their product journey, right? So we started out being a automotive full service automotive company. When I say full service, we did creative design, engineering design, help in prototyping. For the first 5 years or so, we were pure play full services automotive company, uh, bringing solutions to the automotive customers that we had. About 2005 or 6, we sort of pivoted, not say pivoted, but diversified into different verticals, different spaces, if you will. And some of them we recognized that by using engineering and technology, what they were doing today could be compressed into a faster to market kind of offering, along with time savings, cost savings, and all of those. So we started working with consumer goods, uh, CPG or FMCG as it's called, and medical devices as a few of the areas, along with what we were doing with the automotive customer. The areas that we expanded into on the capability front included a lot of programming based automation targeted towards manufacturing and mechanical engineering. Also, we did a lot of control work using embedded systems that became an essential part of any of the products that we're talking about, right? If you're looking at any kitchen equipment or any other equipment today, we do have anywhere between 30 to 80% of electronics that drive these equipment. It's no longer the good old electrical control system. So that's something that we brought in our fold, and we have a strong embedded design practice within Axiom. And in the last 5, 6 years, even though we did a lot of math-based work, which was essential for all the work that we do today, we brought in formal machine learning, deep learning, and related offerings into our fold, wherein several simple things like quality control using image processing, right? Those were all done in-house because of the machine learning or deep learning practice that we had in-house. So today we have a diverse set of people who are doing mechanical engineering, manufacturing engineering, electronics-based embedded systems, as well as computer, software development, which is the underpinning in all of the operations that we do today, along with machine learning or deep learning. I'm staying away from calling it AI, but yeah, machine learning and deep learning kind of approaches that we have today. So, in short, that's the organization structure, and the customers that we work with today are significantly more in the consumer space for multiple reasons. One, the shorter turnaround of the project is almost like a magnet for us to move towards those customers, combined with the appetite for consuming the offering that we are putting
Right.
out. So that's in a nutshell what we are. I'm trying to capture the 20 years in a few sentences.
Yeah. And how do you find the resource availability? I mean, must have been challenging in earlier times, but has the situation changed? Do you find these resources available much easily, or what are the challenges?
When you say resources, you are alluding to the
You primarily
people,
work with a lot of deep tech, right? Machine
yeah,
learning, or
yeah,
even
getting people on
visual.
board, right?
Yeah, hiring people for your projects, whether
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
full
absolutely.
time
Yeah,
or
yeah. Any knowledge business people are the core uh,
correct.
strengths, right? Yeah, early on, yes, we did have challenges. I mean, when we were five or six of us, actually, we did get a lot of good programs that time. And we were a lot younger. I mean, we were 20 years younger. So it meant uh, we did a lot of hands-on work that time and helped build the organization to a point where we could bring in more people. A good part of our story has been people who are attracted to the kind of work that we have been doing. More than I'm pretty sure a lot of big organizations offer more than twice of what we would offer. And it's still the same now as well. I mean, the scale may be even more today. Uh, but the kind of work that we are doing, along with being extremely close to the customer, because fortunately we had many of the projects which are challenging, hard to solve kind of problems that came our way. Uh, uh, the big consulting players used to get the large volume projects. They were not too keen on taking hard to solve smaller problems where the returns for their kind of overheads did not work out. So these problems were sort of the pull for many of the people who worked with us. And yes, it was very hard to find people. And it's not changed any bit today, because even today it's very hard to find good people and to retain them as well. And
No, but
the chat,
isn't don't you think ironic because uh, uh, how many engineering colleges were there in those days, right? When
yeah,
today
yeah, we
probably
had
it's
like
100
15,
times more.
20. Yeah, I wouldn't say 100, like 5, 6 times more engineering colleges are there today. Yeah, there were
Five, six
20, now
times.
they are close to 100 plus, I think.
Oh, I think close to 200 in and around Bangalore itself.
Yeah, yeah, I'm talking about in and around Bangalore.
Yeah. So yeah. So at least yeah, 10 times at least. So but
Yeah,
and why
so
do you
yeah,
think?
def-
So why do you think we still have the same situation? Is it that there is more demand for such resources everywhere else, or is it that we just don't have enough quality resource? Where is the gap?
it's a mix of both. Uh, there is uh, definitely dearth of quality resource. One of the good things that I'm seeing here in the people coming out of colleges is the closeness to being a ready industry resource, in the sense uh, uh, 20, 25 years back, they had strong. I'm just comparing one good engineer those days with today. Uh, they would be strong in theoretical knowledge, but would struggle to come to terms with the industry requirement, and then work their way up, take 6, 8 months before they are fully up and running, right? But in today's world, the good part is they would have gone through at least 2 or 3 internships during their engineering course and be partly ready, at least in terms of being ready to be applied into our world, right? Uh, the uh, the challenge there is the good people, they are looking at bigger and better uh, paying opportunities. Uh, uh, it's a lot of networking at the college level trying to find the right resource before we offer someone. A lot of those happens today, and it used to happen before as well. Uh, One good part I've seen is the creative design part. Uh, we were looked at as one of the premier organizations to work with, and through our journey, we have got many of the students from National Institute of Design to come and intern with us, and some of them continue to work with us after. So that part has been very good. It's on the engineering side, we have always had this struggle. A lot of times the lateral hiring has not worked really well because they come from we hire from bigger organization and force fitting them into a smaller organization where you have to do a lot more than just one thing that you are good at has always been a challenge. However, yeah, there are a few people who will stick on. Fortunately, we have people who are at least 10 years plus in the organization. There are at least a few of them who are close to 20 with us. So it's been fortunate that way because they see what we are seeing as well.
Right. And given this uncertainty of resource availability, right?
Yeah.
How do you how does it impact your goal setting from a point of scale or taking on customers? How do you balance that out? I mean, do you also look at working with resources outside of India?
We have offices in Singapore and North America. We have an office in Cincinnati. We also have an office in Singapore. Yes, we work with people outside of India. Our Cincinnati office has always had one or two interns from the University of Cincinnati a few times. Same with Singapore also. But if you look at the bulk of the resources required for our consulting work are still in India. We have toyed around with remote interns, remote consultants, a few of them from Eastern Europe or from other geographies. But it's been a mixed bag, I would say. Some of them worked exceedingly well. Some of them did not take off at all. So it's been a mixed bag, but it's been a good experience so far. The other part that we have been very successful is working with universities within our ecosystem, is to bring in people, get them on board during their master's or bachelor projects or internship, and then onboard them. They worked out fairly well for us. And nowadays, there has been a lot of interest from the universities in the US, many people who have studied there to come back and work in India. And even there as well, we have been fortunate to be having a few people who, on their own, reached out to us despite lower salaries than what they could get elsewhere, worked with us for a few years and then contributed quite a bit in those spaces.
Right. And how do you see the the technology changing overall? Right. I mean, obviously, one we talked about in the first part of the conversation about AI, but
Yeah.
overall technology, how is it changing, particularly from your business standpoint, and also the technology application? With so much of low code and no code options having come in.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of services business are going to find it very challenging also, right? Because
Yeah.
this is going to impact significantly in the revenue, but most importantly, even go to market is becoming easy. So what
Yeah.
kind of technologies do you see that are coming in to your space, your line of business, and how are they likely to change
Yeah.
or impact your business?
That's a very good question. Uh, the kind of work that we do, the software development is one element of the overall thing. The way we operate is we understand the physics of the problem where there is mechanical engineering or electrical engineering work that needs to be done and augment it with a software solution. So, like you rightly pointed out, the software solution development time has shrunk significantly through many of the newer development tools, whether it's low code, no code, or earlier days also some elements were there. They were drag and drop elements where you could connect and then create a code, right? So those have shrunk the overall development time for sure, which also meant that we are a consulting house, right? We get paid for what we work, so that has shrunk. But the number of opportunities and ability to address more problems have gone up. So that's the way we are augmenting the reduction in per ticket, and the ticket size of per project that's coming down, right? Because of the low code or no code options. And that's a real challenge that I see in the outside world also. I mean, we have a lot of people in India who are doing software development, which can become redundant in the next 2-3 years. All the coding assistants, the co-pilots that they're talking about will significantly shrink the overall development time where you had 4 people working on it. One could be sufficient to deliver the same level of solution, right? So for us, fortunately, the impact is lesser because our consulting is more on the core engineering side, whether it's mechanical, electrical, or any of the core sciences that we bring to the table. And software is one element that binds it all together. It's made us a lot more efficient. One of the good things that I see as an outward trend in the software tools today, any of the simulation tools or the math tools that we have today, is significantly interwoven with machine learning and deep learning today. So a lot of what we used to take significant amount of time has come down because there are assistants that are helping you do the right thing, helping you build. Typically, what we do is we don't do just one simulation. We do tons of lot of what if scenarios because I change the thickness at one point, I change the cap weight, I change something else. And the mixture of this matrix creates hundreds of different simulations that are required before I take a choice, right? Those are all automated today with machine learning.
You also mentioned in our first part of the conversation that you are even automating the process, basically the library of your own previous work.
Yes, that's the IP that we are packaging. Yeah. Correct. So those are all adding to the value today. And customers are also more demanding because they are aware that these tools are existing and what was done for 2 weeks earlier can be done in 3 days today, right? Because of the advancement of technology. So we have to, I mean, we still ask for 2 weeks. There's a competition that will take it away from us. So we have to move with the time.
No, but do you see an opportunity to change the way the engagement is? Because, I think this is a very flawed model. Back in late 2000, right? So around 2008-9, I used to run a analytics venture. So obviously, those days, analytics was not the term in vogue, right? We used to call it data analysis. So I think the coinage happened post, or the usage started happening 10, 12.
2018 now. Yeah.
So what used to happen there is that people used to pay for the IT resource. And all the statisticians were not paid for. So every new customer was, for me, a loss, an increased loss.
Yeah, so, it's a full-time engineer is the term that was used, right? FTE.
Yeah, and which was so funny because the job of the software person was basically, it was a database resource who would go on site and take the data from their different things, collect them and push it back to our office. So all the work used to happen in our office, which is not paid for. and they would pay for the IT resource sitting in their office, which is a low cost resource,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
It's funny. Yeah.
but what you're saying, see, today, look at it. All these low code, no code applications will make the job easier. But what
Hmm.
needs to be paid for is your expertise and experience in what works and how best it works.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
do you see this line of business changing the way the engagement works, or are you working towards any such model in any of your current engagements that you should break out of this traditional IT resource approach?
Yeah. From the beginning, we have stayed away from the people-based scaling. So, for a small company like us, it's hard to compete with the big players, right? I mean, if you are
So, how
looking
do
at
you price then? You still price it
uh,
per hour?
uh, the costing is a hybrid costing calculation internally, uh, but for the customer, we go with this is the engagement and this is how it costs. We are not
Project cost,
giving them
okay.
a breakdown of it requires four junior engineers, two senior engineers, and one program manager. That breakdown is an internal calculation, and we attach some IP cost to it as we shrink because it's
Okay.
the
Okay.
IP that is making you efficient, right? It's not uh,
Correct.
those
So,
people who are executing the IP. So there is a cost attached to that. So it's a hybrid calculation.
so, another thing, I've had some instances where we tried to pitch a solution to once an insurance company.
Hmm.
I'm still talking about 2008-9.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and this was a solution we pitched to the head of marketing. He bought into it. He liked this thing. He wanted it to be implemented. But this is data analysis and analytics, not the term, data analysis. So something to do with computing. So he proposed it to their head of IT, saying, "This is
Mm-hmm.
your budget."
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
finally, I was called in for a meeting. And basically, in front of me and their CEO, there was an argument happening between the head of marketing and head of IT that the cost should
Whose
be borne
budget it
by
should come
the
out of?
others. Right.
Yeah.
And finally, the marketing insisted that, see, my budget is all pertaining to branding and sales efforts.
Hmm.
So this has to be a corporate expense. So let the IT take. IT is like, my budget is clear. It's already started. So this cannot be it. And this is a business use case. So you should take. So uh, who takes care of you? I mean, do you have similar situations even today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the a lot of times uh, there are R&D initiatives uh, for longer term R&D initiatives which impact multiple business units. The corporate R&D is responsible. I'm talking about many of the organizations that we work with. If there is a here and now problem that needs to be sorted, the group that has the problem has to be looking at it. Uh, Several of the initiatives will fall in between, wherein the funding requirement has to be sorted. And we do have to talk to both groups to get an okay. And push and pull is always there. I mean, it's not that it's smooth and streamlined that you put out a proposal and you get the purchase order next day, right? So it's always you have to convince. It goes through multiple convincing conversations before you say yes, uh, go ahead with the project, right? So definitely not to the extent that you described, but definitely it is there.
So are there any mistakes in the way you dealt with, uh, in your course of career? And
Mm.
what are there any significant learning that today makes it how helps you with your very decision making? Is there any
In
mistake that you did which
Mhm.
that learning out of it is so impactful that it helps you in today's decision making for you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of mistakes, there have been several of those. It's just uh, not one or two, too big a list. But there are a lot of learning from all of those mistakes, especially in terms of there have been a lot of mistakes in looking at many of the challenges that are thrown at us as easily solvable in the first go, right? At the first look, it's almost like peeling an onion. So you look at it and say, okay, this is easy, you solve it. And more you get into it, you start to find out that there are many layers to it that you did not think of it earlier. And I mean, in the beginning, we have put a proposal for those as fixed bid initiatives, right? Because we thought it should take X hours, and we had our internal calculation and say, customer says yes, and we find out that it takes twice as much as you go down the line. And most times, when you go back to the customer, you are not getting paid again because, I mean, fair to them, they have a fixed budget. Once we put out a proposal, they go out and seek budget for that, and that's what they internally get as well. So that's been one big area that we have learned, and we have made, if not similar mistakes, multiple times we've made mistakes along the way when we bring in newer capability, and each time we have gone through that process where we have learned that our assessment of what the challenge is has been suboptimal to start with. And nowadays we have built in more safety nets in terms of the way we operate on both fronts. One, putting out a lot of caveats when we build the technical approach and how we solve the problem. There's an architecture to it, right? So you put safety nets around that. And the second part is, if there are a lot of unknowns upfront, we flag that to the customer. These are the elements that we don't know. We'll find out when we go through the program. And if there are any budget requirements, this may be the requirement, so that they're also clear on what they're getting into, and put out an outline budget that covers all of it. If we spend lesser than what they're covered, they're happy, we are happy. If it goes over the initial budget, they still have a buffer to pay us. So those are some of the areas that we have learned the hard way, and then sort of build safety nets around that as we go along. And in especially a boutique or niche consulting that we are offering, the possibilities of that happening are far higher. It's not a well-defined problem that comes to us where we know it's 4 people required for 6 months and then you solve it, right? It's not as straightforward for most of our cases.
Right. And see, you have obviously spent many years in consulting, but time and again, there are a lot of people in consulting end up jumping into running primary line. As in, in your case, were you not tempted to build your own product and go to market? Because the client you did it for, you may think that, okay, these guys are just so incompetent. It's a great product, but they will kill it.
Yeah. See, the customers that we operated with or worked with initially were large automotive companies. There's no way we could build a new vehicle. I'm talking about 2000 to 2008, right? So that temptation was not there, but we were always putting out ideas in front of the customer to say, okay, this is a better way to do it. This is a new possibilities. And some of them were accepted, fair. It's not that everything was shot down. So there was good synergy in that part. In the later half of the journey, we had the FMCG or the CPG customers as a big part. And we had no interest or understanding of the chemistry of those products, whether it's shampoo, food, or anything. So we are on the engineering side, whether it's packaging, machinery, control systems, or measurements. Those are the areas that we operate. So in both contexts, get into the shoes of our customers was never the case. However, along the way, we have built a lot of products which help in the driving efficiencies of all the work that we do. For example, we have uh, two or three software modules that we have built, which is one of them is called virtual end of line. The other is called PackGen AI, which is all driving faster packaging development uh, for the end of line. When I say end of line, it's the journey from the time it leaves the plant to reaching the customer. So there are a lot of things that go on there which needs to be designed for, so that the packages are optimal, survive the rigors of the transportation, all the vibration shocks, everything that it goes through. So there are several software modules which are uh, being used with our customers. We are deploying with our customers. There's another product line that we have is called Memoir, which is a measurement system which we spoke about in the previous
First product.
first version also. There's another product line which we call Universal Instrument Interface, which helps connect all legacy instruments. If you go to any lab today, you could have instruments that are 30 years old and new. When you talk about lab automation, people still don't have lab data streamed in seamlessly there. So what we have built is a module which interfaces to any instrument, converts that digital zeros and ones into a, a CSV format which is stored as data, which can be further used for analytics and any further application. There is another project which is a software project or a program that we have developed, which is called Lab Digitization and Management System. So there are several of those software modules which are built to solve a certain problem, which has been used with a few customers that we work with. This is not in the open market, but we charge on a pay-per-use or similar to any of the SaaS or any of the platform as a service models. So that product building is in our DNA. It's been deployed not as a parallel to our customers, more as a support to our customers.
Right. And who are the big players globally in this space?
In the design space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, the rather now it becomes two things, right? One is in the consulting, and the other one is in the, if I
software.
Can call it, tool.
Yeah. In the software tools, there are many players which are very good. One of them is the company that I worked with earlier, right? Altair Engineering is one of the key player in this space. They have a simulation platform called HyperWorks. They have uh, everything to do with machine learning today offered along with the engineering. They also have digital twin solutions, which are the in thing today, right? When you go into manufacturing space, which we are also offering, not the Altair solution, but our own solution. Altair is definitely one player. Dassault Systems is the other. Siemens is the other key player. So there are a few players who are very strong in this area. PTC is the fourth player I would call out, which is very good. On the simulation side, ANSYS is one of the key players, which is a competitor for Altair, but offering something similar. On the design services side, I can only think of some of the high-end design houses like IDEO or Frog, who are very good, especially in the creative space. And many of the times what we works complementary with what they are offering, because they are not into downstream engineering. The creative design language that is set is something that becomes a starting point for many of our programs.
Right. And in the present context, now how would you compare the application side from your products and pricing, is it more appealing to Indian market, or is that a price advantage that you bring in to uh, your clients, or is there any IP advantage, because you've been in this business for last 20 years? What is the key advantage that you bring into the table?
I would say it's a mix of both. Uh, if I look at journey up to 2009-10, India as a low cost offering was given. Even though we do have IP advantage, the knowledge advantage that we given, the expectation was it will be coming to us with an India price tag, right?
Even now?
Not now. I'm talking about journey till about 2010 or so, wherein it was, even though the high-end work that we brought in, people still expected us to bring in that cost benefit as well. And if you look at today, there's a lot of changes that has happened, especially on the understanding of the pricing. And it's not that, I'm sure most of the other companies are also going through the same thing. It's not always the low cost that we bring to the table. And we also been sort of justified, given globally there is inflation, right? So when you go to somebody and explain to them that this is how much it will cost, when I say somebody, it's somebody who we have been working with 10 plus years. It's hard to shift the goalpost because there's a body of work that we have done. It's hard to say I'll charge you 20-30% more from tomorrow, right? I mean, you clearly have to justify that. And a lot of times it's justified through the IP and the efficiencies that we bring to the table. A lot of work is not directly FTE based, in the sense what used to take 3 weeks, we are doing it in 1 week, but still charge the same thing or slightly more. Given that there is IP component, if you look at the traditional world 10, 12 years ago, people would have shot down that idea. They would have said 3 weeks into number of people, this is how you should charge. You cannot
Sure.
shrink it and then ask for more money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But today, a lot of people are open to that because there is efficiency.
Correct.
They're able to move on faster, right? It's faster to market. That appreciation is definitely there.
Right. And how much of this government effort in Make in India and all, how much of it is actually translating to business for you? Because I see there is definitely a lot of manufacturing businesses are moving here. So which demands a significant amount of localization, even from a point of what materials are available here, processes and resource. So how much of it is translating it to or contributing to your business?
In the last 3-4 years, we have seen an uptick in the local business for us, on the lines that you are talking about. But given our customer demographics being largely North America and Europe, it's not still a big number for us. But I definitely see it's about 15-20% of our business comes locally. And that has definitely changed.
So even from North America, how much of business do you see moving to India since you actually deal with them?
See, if you look at the India operations and the content of India operations, that's definitely moving quite a bit. However, like I mentioned before, many of the programs that we work for are go-to markets for different markets, not just India. So many of them are global programs. We have not gotten involved in localization, sourcing, those kind of programs yet. There has been some small uptick, but not a big impact for us as of today. But I see the trend showing definitely 15-20% increasing as we go along in the years to come.
What about this government's initiative to, Startup India initiatives and all that, right?
Yeah,
There are grants, so much of, I think, uh, there was never a time where so much of money was available for people to start something,
yeah,
right? Even as
yeah,
grants, there is so much of money available. So, how much of
absolutely.
that is translating to your business? I mean, do startups? I mean, they obviously have to do it, right? Those grants are essentially to build prototypes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's a very good point because now people are. I mean, I envy people today. I wish we started out these days than when we did, right? Money is definitely for, if there's a good idea, there's always money today. There's no doubt about that. And some of the startups that we work with are partly funded by, if it's a social initiative, funded by CSR of big organizations, or if it's a good idea, there are grants that are given, either government grants or related grants, right? Some of them, yes, they do come to us and get the initial prototype. Sometimes it's just a seed money to put out a prototype in front of the investor to get uh, Series A
Right.
or Series B funding. So we have had a cross section of people across, from just an idea to I have built a rudimentary prototype. I want a professional prototype, right? So all of those have happened. And the big challenge today is uh, some of them are well educated in terms of what are the steps that are required to take it to market. Some of them are not. And I'm sure you have come across in your interaction with the startups as well. They are not aware of what all it takes to take it to the market. I've seen that more with people who have been working in the software world, spin out and try and build a business which is hardware heavy, right? They are always thinking of version 1, version 2, version 3 within the development cycle. In a software, you can code overnight and then make another version. It's not so in while you're building a physical stuff. You have to have a clear goal. You have to have clear objectives for each one of the prototype before you jump to the next. There's It's not an overnight agile coding approach, right? So that's been one of the challenges that I've seen as a common thread.
So, if you have to give a shout out to uh, entrepreneurs and people who in India or anywhere, right? I mean,
Mhm.
so to work with you or collaborate with you, what do you want to say?
That's a difficult one. Yeah. We are doing a lot of new work, especially in the large language model. And it's new for us. And I'm sure it's new for most of us because apart from OpenAI and a few others, nobody has done a lot of work in this area. Uh, we would definitely want to look at technical collaborations which will quicken our process. Uh, and it's a collaborative effort, right? It's a win-win for both of us if there are synergies to be exploited. And we are using it or planning to use it for one specific application, which is solving physics-based problems. When I say physics-based problems, it's addressing things around structural strength or fluid flow or heat transfer or thermal performance. All of that are physically tangible problems that we are solving using language models, using them as guides to help design this. So anybody who's worked in this area, definitely open to collaborate and work with.
That
There are
when
some,
you mean in the material space, is it?
both in the material space and the actual structural or thermal design space, wherein people
Okay.
use knowledge of physics to design it.
Mhm.
So that is definitely one area where any, not just language models, any machine learning or deep learning approaches we have not explored would be a great collaboration for us.
Oh, well, we had Chetan Shivaprasad, an architect, in one
Mm-hmm.
of our podcasts. So please do look up. He is
Sure.
also a biodesign enthusiast.
Yeah.
So he employs biodesign
Yeah.
in architecture.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were also talking about him. They build Earth House.
Um,
So so essentially, Earth House also have to be cooler during summer and warmer during winter,
winter. Yeah.
and naturally, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so even the direction of sun and wind, everything
Yeah.
has to be considered in the process of design. So,
Yeah.
for the audience and listeners, anybody who's interested in that, you should look up Chetan Shivaprasad's podcast.
Yeah.
So, do you employ these concepts also in your design?
Yeah. That's a good segue. I mean, biomimicry is something that
Yeah.
we do uh, in several of our programs. Uh, there was a technology, there is still is, I shouldn't say was, called topology optimization. This is a technique, if you were to imagine a design space, I want to design something that fits in a particular space. It holds here, it is loaded here. Imagine something that is not known how it is going to be, right? But you know how it's going to function. What this tool does is distributes a material in a most optimal way, serving that purpose. So it's not a human being doing the design; it's algorithm doing a design in the most optimal use of material that is given to the algorithm. So that's the root of uh, this overall what is today called generative design. Uh, so it goes in and iteratively uh, creates multiple design and comes up with the most optimal design that should fit your purpose. And if you look at several players, I mean Altair, Autodesk, and several players who are today using this generative design to, let's say, I give an idea, let's say I want a chair, it should be able to seat 100 kg person, do a particular function. It generates hundreds of ideas and shortlists them like this is the top five. The best part is it employs biomimicry along the way. So you would get designs which are completely looking like a structure which is interwoven mesh of things that are together, right? How that is practical today is the evolution and the growth of 3D printing. If that design was given to someone 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they would definitely not be able to manufacture it. But today it's possible given the 3D printing, you can print any exotic shape, create anything that you want or you can imagine, right? So generative design combined with 3D printing is turning out to be extremely powerful technology, um, not just used in exotic things like this, even in mainstream things like gas turbine, inner structure of a gas turbine. It could be many of the automotive parts of today. It's happening with sports and limited edition vehicles, but I think it will become mainstream as it goes along.
No, even in the biomedical space, right? Like
Yeah,
limbs,
absolutely.
like
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. And this is what do you say? Anything that has limited volume production is extremely potent technology. But there are a lot of work that is going on in the 3D printing space, which should make it. It's just uh, waiting to happen, right? To make it mainstream.
Yeah. See, here I find this thing that see, uh, today also in India we make prosthetic legs, limbs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So much of it is about replacing what otherwise exists from a
Correct.
sense of normality, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But not really looked at it from a sense of functionality, as in
Correct.
you need limbs to run, those
Hmm.
Blade Runner kind of a thing, right? I mean, you don't
Yeah,
need the same
same
limbs,
shape. Yeah, yeah,
same shape, which can look
yeah,
different. But uh, that kind of a thinking is still very, very limited here, right? In the
yeah,
sense of approach.
yeah, yeah.
So, how much do you see that changing when you employ? Because, see, today with 3D printer and the design capability and the generative design and biomimicry,
Mm.
why are we still so restricted in our approach to product design?
I think it's coming. I have seen that evolve. I've seen people use a lot of these. This is off late. I'm talking about COVID and post-COVID era. There has been a lot of work that is happening here. One of the things that for the mainstream market to see that in the market, since these are medical applications, the FDA takes 6, 8, 10 years sometimes before the entire approval cycle is is completed, right? Uh, it's not like a conventional product that you can put it out. But
Well,
there are things
I
that are
think
coming.
those things will also change, right? The COVID showed it that the FDA
Yeah,
can
it
approve
could
in few
change.
months also.
Yeah, but those are emergency situations, right? I mean, if you look at the orthopedic application, it's still not so.
Uh, yeah, right. But yeah, not just from a prosthetic leg or limb, but
Yeah,
overall, that approach is still not as much into vogue, because I think first time I came across biomimicry almost 8 years ago when I went to CPDM in IS.
yeah,
So, but we
yeah,
still don't see it as much.
yeah. We are, I mean, in our space, we are working with a few bottle designs. These are designs where, if you look at any of the water bottles today, right, these are highly optimized because they are extremely thin walled, and the strength comes from the ribbing pattern that's there on the bottle. What we are doing is similar, but the ribbing pattern that you are getting there is driven by the software tool that I talked about, which uses topology optimization, gives the design which is organic in shape, right? It's not necessarily the regular ribbing pattern that you have, but it's more driven by the optimization that is coming in from biomimicry and generative design approaches. We have worked with at least 3 packages. Uh, Two of them are in the trials today for go to market. So it's happening, but it's not as mainstream as you are talking about. It's
Yeah,
fairly
that's true.
limited work.
Right. I'm not getting it where someone said that best design is not something that actually stands out, but it's
Mm.
something that you think is how it should be, and it just gels in.
Jelsin, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
agree totally, totally.
right. So wonderful. Thank you so much for this. Is there anything you want to add to it from a point of sector, specifically from a point of your business offering? Is there anything you want to add before we?
Not much. I think we did talk about most of it. Uh, the only thing that I see as a trend and buzzword that's going on in our area is about sustainability, but I'm not an expert to talk about it. So definitely we are trying to learn more about it, but it's still, for us, it's still in its infancy. Uh, but I see that, I hear that a lot of times when I go and meet customers, there are challenges around that, and how could you help us in that process?
Right, right. It's interesting. Just the other day we were talking about in another group on the
Hmm.
similar context, and at one side there is so much of willingness to look at incorporating sustainable practices, but on the other side there is so much of misconception and the wrong or the targeted narrative
Yeah.
to drive the some agendas, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so somewhere we possibly require. I mean, in fact, in that conversation, there was a gentleman at a mid-senior level from the government agency also. So even he was trying to say, he was admitting rather that this narrative is also there in the government also. They
Hmm.
also believe, and media
Absolutely.
carries it. So
Hmm.
how do you address it? So
Yeah.
so
The way
probably yes, yeah,
the way I look at it is if the rules and the design concepts are black and white, it makes it easier. For us, I
but it
know
never
from
is, right?
structural, yeah, see, from structural standpoint, I know if a bottle, I try to crush it, it should withstand 100 kgs, let's say. So that is clear. I know what is the rule that I have to design for. Similarly, in sustainability, if rules are black and white like that, it makes it easier. And like you rightly said, it's extremely gray today. So you look at one side, uh, the thought process is totally different from what the other side is thinking.
Yeah, no, I may be repeating here, but I think my assessment is fundamentally there is a lack of approach of life cycle view or a 360-degree view to anything here. I think this is something should probably go in at a education level. So people should start looking at everything as, uh, you know, where do they come from,
Yeah,
right? Now,
yeah,
they do talk about traceability. I think you're in the CPG space. They talk about
yeah, yeah,
traceability but it's only talked about for what we consume, right?
yeah.
Uh, but that,
Pre-grave and post-grade, post-grave and pre-cradle is to be looked at as well.
yeah. So if we are able to at least start getting people and makers to start thinking like that, and then policymakers also to start thinking like that, I think there'll
Yeah,
be a lot of change.
yeah.
Yes,
Wonderful.
wonderful. Thank you so much once again, and for the audience and listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please feel free to go and share it across in your network. And for those of you who have missed the first part, I'm sure you will go back and catch up with that. And yes, before we close, do come back soon. We're going to have Chandra make some predictions as well, and also get his perspectives on future otherwise. So uh, till then, enjoy the ride. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.